We're back with our Derby Day coverage of the netball. I'm Ben, and I'm with
Hannah
and
Laura.
And we're going to be, they're going to be commentating on the netball that's about to start. And I'm going to be here just to be someone who's never watched netball in my life and help translate for everyone. So yeah, when you are in this situation, just before a game starts, what's going through your head? Like, how are you preparing when you have to play?
You're kind of just focused on whatever your captain, or if you are the captain, kind of what you're saying, your team talk to your mates. You're not really thinking about anything else. You're quite nervous at this point. It's quite a lot of adrenaline just to get started. Once you're started, I think you feel a lot calmer. But
yeah, absolutely. When they're on the lines to start the centre pass, that is the most tense time. The second the centre pass has gone out, you relax completely. But just before then, it is a bit nerve-wracking.
You mentioned like the captain was like giving a team talk doing that. What do you think UAE's captain, and if you know their name as well, Izzy, what is she saying in that huddle, do you think? Like what kind of thing is she comforting the team with?
I think particularly with our first team, we have a tendency to lose our heads a little bit. So our gameplay and our level and our ability is there, but we get a little bit flustered. So she's probably just telling the team that we need to make sure that we stay calm, don't let it get to us, and just not kind of rush too much in the first quarter.
She'll definitely be saying keep a positive attitude as well, because that's so important in this sort of match. No negativity on the court, that sort of thing.
Okay, so almost ready to set off now. So just before we start, the first thing I think people will need to know. Could you give me a quick rundown of positions in netball?
Okay, So we've got goal shooter, which is Jordan Rainbird, and the goal shooter can only go up to the first third. And then we've got goal attack. They can go in the first and second third of the pitch, which is Elsa MacArthur. Then we've got the wing attack, which is Megan Davies. She can also go in the first and second third. However, she cannot go in the circle and she can't shoot. The centre can go over the whole court, but can't go in either circles and can't shoot either, which is Kirsty Thomas. Then we've got our wing defence, which can go in the defensive 2/3, can't go in the circle, which is Phoebe Coward. Goal defence, which is Izzy Semple, the captain, can also go in both the defensive thirds and also can go in the circle and defend the circle. And finally Zainab is the goalkeeper and can only go up to the first defensive third and can also defend the circle. Yeah. Who had the first centre pass?
I don't know actually.
It was Essex.
Essex, okay.
So we've done well to turn it over. So with the first centre pass, you should maintain possession. So in netball, you're always aiming to turn it over if that's not the case. So as you can see, we've managed to successfully do that at the moment as we've got possession of the ball. But we now just need to convert it, which we're struggling to do to get it into the D.
So that was a contact just there, so we get a penalty pass or shot now in the circle.
Now it's literally just about trying to feed it in to give the shooter kind of their optimum position to shoot, which is quite frustrating, particularly when you're watching, because you're kind of like, it just needs to go in at this point. But hopefully it will happen.
So the defenders just got called out for obstruction there, which is a penalty.
So it seems that UEA just scored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just 1 point in
Yeah.
netball? Okay.
You always get 1 point, it never changes, it's literally just 1 point all the time.
So as you can see, it's quite common in the circle to be called up for sort of contact or obstruction. So contact just means like any sort of barging, anything like that. Obstruction is what you have to be 3 feet away from a person if you're going to defend the ball. So if they're closer than that, they get called for obstruction and you get a penalty. So UE have just scored again, so we're 2-0 up now.
So now Essex have got the centre, so we're looking to turn over this ball, because it should, in theory, just sail down to their shooters, which it has done. And they have already scored. But it's fine. This is a very fast, paced game, so you kind of expect it to be a goal for one, a goal for one.
Yeah.
So we've done well to get a 2-goal advantage to begin with, because we should maintain that throughout the game.
Yeah, as you can see, there's sort of a goal scored constantly. You'll have a goal be scored every minute almost in a netball match, so it's always quite close.
So is the umpire standing direct behind the goal? Are they do they officiate everything going on within that inner circle?
Yeah, so you have 2 umpires and they basically take half of the court and half of the back line each. So it's her job to kind of run along when it's this in one half of the court, and then you have the other umpire who takes over and she kind of has the break. But whichever side you're on, you need to be looking at lines and also the 3-second rule. So in netball, you can only hold the ball for 3 seconds. After that, it goes over to the other team. It's already quite a physical game, although contact is very common in the circle. I think there's probably been more contacts than I'd say in a normal game.
Yeah, absolutely. The Essex centre and wing defence they're contacting quite a lot actually.
They're very, very physical players, which you will consistently get blown up for with good umpires. It basically means that they're out of play and we automatically get the ball, or vice versa. So we can kind of use it to our advantage as long as we don't end up on the floor.
Do you think a big game atmosphere like Derby Day leads to more of those kind of fouls?
Definitely. I think people are fighting for it a lot more, and there's kind of less afraid to just go for the ball. And I think in netball, particularly as a defender, you are better respected for almost trying for every ball, even if you do get penalised for it, as opposed to not trying for the ball and not penalised. There's kind of a saying that if you haven't got a contact or an obstruction once in a game, you're not really a good defender.
Yeah, sorry, the Essex goal defence just kicks the ball. I don't know what she's playing out there because that is not allowed. I think they're just a bit stressed out and they're just sort of trying to win at all costs attitude rather than playing fairly at the moment.
Is there a limit to the number of fouls a team or a player can get individually?
So technically you can get as many as you want. It's up to the umpire's discretion. If she thinks that your play is deliberately dangerous, deliberately harmful, or threatening to another player, then you can get a caution. And then if you get a caution, after that, if you kind of do the same thing again, you can get sent off the court. And then it's again the umpire's discretion when you come back on the court and if you're allowed to. So depending, if this continues in the way it is, I wouldn't be surprised if the central or the wing defence for Essex team's got a caution.
Yeah, it does totally depend on the umpire. Some umpires absolutely love giving cautions, like it really does depend. But I think today that, if the Essex defence does keep up the constant contact, then they probably will get a caution at some point in the match. It's really rare to see a player get sent off though. Usually it's just a warning. I don't think I've actually ever seen someone get sent off, to be honest.
And if they would be sent off, is it just a forced substitution or do they lose a player?
You lose a player. It's the umpire's discretion, but you normally completely lose a player, and then it's up to the umpire again if they're allowed back on. Normally it's after like a set amount of goals has happened for the other team is when you're allowed back on, but it just really depends. With netball and as a sport of 7, losing a player is like a massive disadvantage, particularly as well with the spatial limits that you're allowed to go in. So yeah, we've got our shooter just taking a shot now with a penalty against the player.
So how often would like a good university level shooter expect to score from a shot in netball? Like, are we talking 50% or?
They should be scoring like 80%.
Yeah, 80 to 90 really.
At least 80. 100%. Especially in the league that our first team Bucks are in. What league are they in?
I think they did.
Maybe 2. So
think
maybe the
2.
second highest one. So which is really competitive. So at that standard they should be. I think our Bucks team is actually in a higher league than Essex as well. So in theory we should.
This should be a walk in the park.
You know, when it comes to Derby Day, like it's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing, particularly with netball, is if you kind of get that 7, 8, 9 goal lead, it's actually really hard to catch that back up because it kind of does go goal for goal. So we've done well to kind of get that initially to get that 3 goal lead. It's a big game for both of our shooters. They're both third years, so it'll be their last. Although else is a medic, so I guess just carrying on.
Yeah, this is quite. There's a lot of third years in the team this year, actually. They've all started off as freshers, together, and gone straight through. So it's going to be an emotional one for them.
It'll also be interesting to see how the squad compares next year. So we've kind of tried to develop younger players throughout the squad, but it will be interesting to see how the play changes.
Are there any freshers on the team this year currently competing?
Yeah, there are 2 freshers. So they're both subs at the moment. Gemma Spencer and Millie Maguire. Gemma's a centre court and Millie is a shooter. But yeah, they're subs at the moment. They're both really great players though. Really good additions to the team this year. If you've noticed, Zainab, the goalkeeper's dyed her hair blue for the day, for the occasion.
Oh, for the day?
Yeah,
Yeah, literally. That is how dedicated.
She voted to do yellow or blue, and people voted blue. So yeah, she did it for Derby Day.
Then got the headband to. I love the spirit of that.
Yeah, she's very committed.
It is a very physical game on the top of the D at the moment, which is kind of the pressure point of getting it into the shooters. But that's happening on both teams. So I think in the next break at the next quarter that it will kind of get dragged up that we need to be careful that we're not lowering to kind of a physical play. We can play better than that.
The
we don't.
defence is about to get a caution, I think.
Yeah.
I think she's just got a warning. I'm not sure if it was a caution. So before a caution, sometimes you just get a warning.
It's like an informal.
An informal. If you don't change it, you're going to end up with a caution, and then kind of after you've got that caution, you can't do anything wrong at all. Otherwise, you're gone. So that's come quite early on in the game. We're not even at the end of the first quarter, so it'll be interesting to see if she gets subbed out or she continues to play.
I know in most sports you get like a trend of it gets more physical and there are more fouls the later on in the game you go. Do you notice that pattern with netball? Does shooting deteriorate as people get more tired? Do people get more desperate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just tiredness. People are more sloppy, like the players more sloppy, more contact, more obstruction, because with obstruction at the start of the match you are thinking, am I 3 feet away from the player, but near the end you're just wanting to get the ball, so it's a lot of sloppiness. Shooting as well can go off, especially if you've not had a great match feel. The shooting, it happens if they start off badly with the shooting, that's it, it tends to be bad for the whole match.
I would say that actually probably the first quarter is one of the more sloppy quarters in terms of number of fouls, just because with netball there's this real kind of keenness out the gate. So we've kind of really gone in really hard, and I think we'll need to be saying that actually we do need to calm down a little bit, because we still have got 45 minutes left of the game. So I think second quarter is probably where people settle into the play a lot more. There are fewer fouls, and it just feels a bit less tense on court. There's quite a lot of frantic decisions are being made, so the ball's being released really, really quickly. So we need to make sure that we do slow it down, otherwise it opens up for interceptions.
You might see some more footwork as well in the final quarters, because we haven't seen any of that yet, and that's sort of the thing that happens when you get tired and you're not really paying attention. So footwork is just when you take more than 2 steps when you have the ball. That's obviously not allowed, so that might happen more often in the final quarters.
Also with obstruction, because defenders get tired of leaning and you can't do it anymore. So Essex have brought it back. There is only one in it at the moment, which isn't really how we'd like to be ending, or coming up to the end of the first quarter. 1 goal in netball is basically nothing, so unless we need to get a bigger lead than that really, otherwise it will continue to be neck and neck the whole time.
Last year I think we were winning up to the third quarter, and we only lost it in the final quarter, so it's anyone's game really in the final quarter.
I think with netball as well, the game really changes because you've got an hour, so you start reading the player that you're marking if no subs are made, and then you kind of know their moves, you know how the shooters get the ball, so the goalkeeper might start picking up on the fact that Jordan always goes in for the drop ball, so she'll wait behind the player and then get a ball that kind of goes straight over and in. So if the goalkeeper picks up on that, then Jordan will stop kind of getting the passes as the goal shooter. So it really does become all to play for if you're kind of playing the tactical long game. So yeah, it's not good. So unfortunately that ball was given away there. That was just the kind of pressure, I think, forcing that stopping mistake. But this could potentially give Essex their equaliser. So netball is very much a game where everything does matter. That's the dropped pass that Jordan likes. So if the goalkeeper starts to pick up that, that's what she likes.
That was a bad decision from the umpire there. It was out of hands, so you can't knock the ball out of someone's hands, and that is clearly what the Essex defence just did. Yeah, so that's a tricky one, because it sort of looked like the goal attack sort of jumped on the goalkeeper, but usually the defenders are the ones that get called for the contact just because they're defence. So it's just a decision the umpire has to make most of the time, and it usually goes in favour of the attackers.
There is very much a bias. There tries not to be, but on every level in netball, so all the way up to kind of international, there is a bias that it's more likely that the defence are kind of the one that are doing the foul, which is very unfortunate, but just kind of the way that the game is. So Essex have now overtaken us, which is not good. But time has just been cool.
I think Izzy, who is our captain and probably our best player, has just got injured, which is not ideal. Yeah, that is really something that we can really afford to happen.
Yeah, she's had problems with that ankle all year. Ankle injuries in netball are literally, they go hand in hand. So unfortunately it looks like she's coming off.
So we don't really have, we have less defenders than attackers. The centre court's quite heavy, but this year there's not really as many defenders. Just because Izzy and Zainab are such strong defenders, I think the coach just wanted to pick more of a centre court team. So Izzy getting injured is like Flo, who's just gone in, has taken Izzy's position. She is great as well, but she's more of a wing defence rather than a goal defence. So Yeah,
think
it's not great for you.
the feeling on court as well might not be fantastic because Izzy is the captain, so we've just lost the captain of court. We have got Flo, who is the president of netball, so kind of they should equalise out a little bit. But
yeah, and Meg Davies is vice captain, so she's got quite good attitude.
She's still on court, but that is quite a big blow to take, and particularly as early on as it is. Izzy is someone who is an incredible player and plays the whole duration of the game and plays really, really well. So that's a really, really unfortunate loss. And she's a third year, so if that's all she can do for Derby Day, that's really, really unfortunate. We've got 20 seconds now, so we really need to get this shot in.
How many people are normally on the bench for a netball team?
You can have up to 5, I think. 5 is the maximum. On sort of like in Bucks matches, obviously you will have up to 5 because it's so competitive to get into the team, so you'll have the maximum amount of players. But more when it gets like lower down in sort of standard, you might just have like, sometimes you only have 1 sub, like you just get, have whatever you can.
So that was very, very unlucky there, and our shooter had 2 shots of opportunity and unfortunately didn't get either, which is just sometimes the way it goes, but it does mean that Essex are currently 1 point up against us. A big issue with shooters is that if they get in their head that they're going to keep missing, they do tend to miss. So we're actually lucky to have one of our coaches here, so she'll probably be saying to the shooters that you need to keep your heads up and like keep thinking about sinking those shots, otherwise we'll just lose that.
Has this been like a pretty normal half in terms of scoring, like quarter even? Like have they scored more than you would have expected, or like less, or like what's going on with that?
Well, they probably scored less, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd expected more.
Normally they score closer to 15 because it's obviously 15 minutes. You usually get a goal a minute almost. However, obviously Essex were a bit further behind at the beginning and then brought it back, so that probably explains why there is a bit less. And obviously we want to be a bit further ahead than just 1 point in it. So yeah, we probably could have done it better in that quarter.
With netball, there's kind of a big difference between the amount of possession that a team is getting and then whether they're actually kind of converting it into goals. So I'd say the possession in that was relatively equal, and therefore the scores do reflect how the play was.
Absolutely, and it's so much pressure on the shooters. Like we're both defenders, and I couldn't imagine the pressure because like the whole team works so hard to get the ball into that circle, and if the shots don't go up, it's like you feel like it's your fault. But like at the end of the day, they're the ones that are stepping up to be the shooters. So, you know. But our shooters are doing quite well today. Like I think they're quite on target. Yeah, unfortunately Essex are also doing just as well.
Yeah, Essex. I can remember this last year. Essex they're very well at converting. Their shooters are pretty much they throw it and it will go in, which is obviously fair play to them. But it's really, really frustrating as a player when kind of they do deserve the goal because they've got it there. But actually, if you have the possession most of the time and that's happening, it's really, really hard. Which is why I think a lot of netball is kind of about mentality.
Is there like, I know you guys are defenders, but like when the shooter, when you're trying to get the ball in their hands, is it just you want to get it in their hands anywhere where they can shoot, or are you trying to get them in like a good position, or is that like their responsibility to be able to hit it from anywhere?
So I think as a centre and a wing attack, who are the ones that feed it into the shooters, you're kind of just aiming to land on the top of the D, and like land on the top of the circle and feed it to them however they want. It's then kind of the shooter's choice whether are they happy where they are or do they want to try and move it. And if they want to try and move the ball, they then need to turn it back out to someone that's on the D and then move into a better position. But shooters definitely have their favourite places to shoot from or places they don't like shooting from. So I think it really helps that our team have played together all year. So the winger, so Megan will know that Jordan likes the ball just under the post, or that Ailsa likes it when she's on a parallel. So it's just one of those things that you get used to with experience, I think.
Yeah, it can happen though that I know Kirsty does this quite a lot where the centre she'll just throw the ball in and just hope someone runs onto the ball, so she'll just fly it into somewhere where there's a space and she'll just hope that one of the shooters can get her ball, and it works quite a lot of the time luckily, but it is quite risky. It's
a very risky strategy and it's one of those that if Essex pick up on then it could be easy turnovers for her.
Oh, so it looks like one team's back. Oh yeah, so we've got a scoreboard in the top that you can like see on the stream. It's currently 8 to UEA, 9 to Essex. We're just about to start off the second quarter. So yeah, another 15 minutes.
This is kind of, it's not the make or break quarter. The third quarter tends to be the make or break quarter, but if we start taking a loss now, which we might do, Essex is starting with the centre ball, our heads probably will really go down. So from the get-go, we need to be on it with this, and we currently aren't turning it over, so that's not great.
We can also see, obviously, that now the shooting and defending ends have switched over. So every quarter they switch. So now UEA are shooting at the opposite end that they were.
So we have done well. We've just turned it over from our defence, and it's already down in our attack. So what we're looking at now is Jordan just converting this goal, which hopefully she's just about to do. Yeah, she has. So that's good. I think it's our centre now. If we get this goal, then we're 1 up. And I think that's kind of all we need. You can see that the play's a little bit less frantic already. Like, we're settling into it a lot better, which is good.
Yeah, and they've kept the team the same. They haven't got any subs on after the first quarter, which tends to happen. Just because once you're comfortable after the first quarter, you don't really want to be changing it up straight away. You want to keep that until halfway at least.
If changes are going to happen as well, they tend to happen in blocks. So if you're a shooter, obviously your preference is going to be to have 2 quarters together as opposed to shooting, then coming off, kind of losing your eye a little bit, and then going back to it. So that affects what I'm saying. Lovely. So now we're 1 up, which is kind of what we needed. We need to turn it back over, otherwise it is literally going to be goal for goal. But
So yeah. So does the centre pass, does that just like alternate regardless of who scores?
Yeah, regardless of who scores, the centre pass always alternates. So that can literally be what makes and breaks the game, because that's kind of your opportunity to turn it over. It's fair. So hopefully that will happen. Again, it's another contact there.
Yeah, if there's a penalty that happens in the centre court, it tends to be a defender that takes it, so all the attackers can move up, because obviously the defence can't go in the attacking third, so it'll always be a defender that will take a penalty in the centre court. Elsie, who has our goal attack, her preferred position is actually a wing attack, but she actually happens to just be our best goal attack as well, so she doesn't she tries to avoid the shooting, usually pass it to the goal shooter. She's great at getting into the circle though, that's why she's our goal attack.
So when we saw there, like when they miss a shot, what are the rules for that? Like, can you rebound? Like can it go out of play? Like
so when you miss a shot, as a defender, your aim is to be getting to that rebound. As an attacker, you also want to get it. If you've thrown the shot and it hasn't hit the post or the net at all, you can't recatch the ball. That's then called replay, because basically you're throwing it to yourself, which you're not allowed to do, so then it turns over to the other team. But other than that, it's anybody's ball, and everyone should try to be jumping to get that ball.
What happens if the ball goes out of court?
If the ball goes out of court, then it'll be the opposite team to whoever threw it off that will get the ball. Unless if it's been tipped off or an interception's occurred, and then it will go back to your team.
Footwork. That was just very obvious footwork there. I think she did just sort of stumble, but take 3 steps. It's but for footwork, it's not a penalty; it's a free pass. So the difference is, obviously, if it's a penalty, the person that has done the mistake has to stand next to you, the person taking the penalty. But if it's a free pass, like, you just take it straight away.
So we can see here that the penalty there was against Ailsa's marker, but she's chosen to put the ball down basically and give it to the goal shoot to try and take the shot, which doesn't seem that she's very confident in shooting today, which is unfortunate. But hopefully we'll convert that over. So yeah, our current point, this is just going to be neck and neck, so we do really need to turn over these centre balls, otherwise it will continue this way to the end and then get very hectic.
The Essex goal attack is very good. I don't think she's missed a shot yet, actually.
Yeah, she hasn't. Which at this level, this is what makes the game. So obviously our shooters are they are very good. They have been getting lots of shots in, but they haven't got 100% shot accuracy at the moment, whereas Essex have, and that it kind of explains why we're currently drawing. As opposed to our kind of amount of possession, we've had the ball a lot more than Essex have.
just there, it was kind of difficult to see who actually came off. So I think at that sort of time, the umpire's just got to either make a snap decision, just decide that they're right, and you can't really contest the umpire, even if you think it might have come off the other person. Sometimes if the umpire is actually unsure, they can have a toss-up, so they'll just throw the ball up, and whoever gets it, that's their ball.
That current umpire is Hannah Holmes, and she's in charge of the whole of the Norwich Netball League, so she's a very good umpire, which is nice. So we can see here that Flo, the defender there, is so close always to getting those balls, but not quite managing it. So she just needs to try and kind of push herself a little bit more to get this, which is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, just a contact there.
Yeah, but yet again, that wing defence is contacting, so she needs to be careful. She hasn't done it as much as before.
Yeah, so sometimes the umpires only call contact if it's like impact on you catching the ball, but sometimes if an umpire sees that there's contact going on in the other parts of the court, they'll still call it up. It's quite rare they do that, but sometimes they do. Like if they just see something going on the other end of the court, they'll just call it up and give a penalty.
So there's kind of a rule it's called the contesting rule. So you're not allowed to contact, but if I was kind of pushing on my player and my player was pushing back with equal force, that would just be known as contesting, and you're both allowed to do that. But as an umpire, obviously that's a really hard thing to call. So we've just turned it over there. Our goalkeeper, our defender, has got the ball. So Kirsty's now looking to throw it. So Phoebe's now got it in the mid-court, just trying to feed it into that circle. Wing defence again has just got an obstruction, so she's going to be looking at getting in a bit of a problem. And Jordan has just sunk that shot, so now it's their centre, so it still is literally 1-1 in it.
If like an obstruction or if like a foul is called as you've shot and it goes in, what happens then?
So if you've already released the ball from your hands and the foul is like that, it's been called up. If you miss the shot, you're allowed to redo it. If it goes in, it stands.
Okay.
So it's quite a nice rule because you kind of, if it's in, it's in. If it doesn't, then you have another go. And that is quite often the case. I would say it does get called kind of after it's been released.
It's almost every time actually someone takes a shot that usually there's an obstruction that happens. So it's common that most shots are actually penalties.
So there Meg was struggling to feed it into Kirsty, who's our centre, but the wing defence actually ran into her and then got given a foul for that. So we managed to use that. That was messy on Essex's behalf, and we should have picked that back up.
It'll be interesting to see how the shooting changes at half time, if it does get changed up at all, because Jordan shooting, the goal shooter, is actually quite on target. So I don't actually know if she'll be taken off, but then we've got Frankie McLeod on the bench, who's an incredible shooter as well, so she could potentially get put on. And then Elsa MacArthur, she is our best goal attack, so I don't really know what's going to happen at half time. Normally I can predict it, but I'm unsure.
I think as well they'll be hesitant to make changes because it is people's last year. But if they're going to change the shooting, they do kind of need to do it in the third quarter because it's almost too much of a risk to do in the final quarter. We can see that Gemma, who was on the bench, is starting to warm up, so she's clearly already been told that she's probably going to be playing. So she'll probably come on as centre, which can really change the whole dynamic throughout the court. So both the Essex players there were obstructing, so Jordan actually didn't have anybody marking her. And now we are building that lead now, so we're currently 2 up, and it's our centre again, so hopefully we'll be 3 up in about 10 seconds if we manage to sink a shot. I was really unlucky there. Unfortunately, the ball was just thrown a little bit too hard for Meg, who's our wing attack, to catch it. So then she got called up for replay. So you're basically not allowed to bounce the ball. If you drop the ball, your ball's been dropped, you can't pick it back up.
It's quite hard to see the lines that they're playing on actually, because we normally play long ways. So we see, like, we would play on the red line. So once it goes over that red line, you can clearly see this gone out. But here, like, 'cause there's so many lines, I'm a bit unsure when it's gone out, but they are playing on the red lines. But yeah, it might be hard even for players sometimes to know, because it can be confusing in a court like this.
Our defence are actually playing really, really well today. I don't think many changes will be made there. The speed of the kind of that back line being taken and us getting it back to the attacking end straight away. But we can see that the attackers are starting to struggle to get the space, to get it into the D. There's been a lot of times where Megan has won attack and Kirsty as centre have struggled to get it in like then. We're waiting for the second move, which isn't particularly what you'd like to be doing in an ideal world. So yeah, we're now 3 up, which is really, really good.
If we get another turnover here, that should be quite promising lead.
Yeah. 3 is very much still like takeable because she's about to. Oh, is that? I think that might. Is that the first time she's missed? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it might be the first time she missed.
But we can see here the defence is so much more spread out. She didn't have anyone marking her then, so it's a lot easier for her to get the ball. So the defence are playing really, really well. Sometimes it can struggle to get up from one end of the court to the other, which clearly it hasn't just there.
So what happened there? I think it was a held ball actually. So held it for more than 3 seconds, which is, it doesn't happen quite often, but it means that the Essex defence was good.
Yeah, it's understandable why that would happen.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly as I mentioned before, that we're struggling to kind of make those passes now, so they're going to be forcing that error a little bit more. Zainab just did a really, really good interception, so the ball was going straight into the goal shoot and she just took it out of her hands.
Yeah, and imagine like the time where it's most likely to get that 3 second is trying to get it in, and that seems to be where the game slows down the most.
Exactly. So Essex will be looking to force those errors. So putting on enough pressure that actually we kind of mess up through no fault of our own, just there isn't anyone there. So with 3 seconds on things like replay ball, that was so unlucky.
That's just the worst, like, because your shooting's clearly on target. It's just unlucky how the ball goes. I couldn't imagine being a shooter. So much pressure.
So Kirsty's just a lovely tip there, so she's just tipped it out of the other centre's hands. But unfortunately, because it came off the court, it's now their back line, so it's advantageous for them. Again, Kirsty's tipped it, but she did get done for contact.
Sometimes it's just unlucky, like sometimes they'll call it for contact, sometimes umpires do let that sort of thing pass. It just depends.
So Zainab's out of this, it's just down to Flo's lead, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough. So we're back up to only a 2-goal lead. It is our centre, so.
High Elsa, the goal attack, throws the ball when she shoots. Like every shooter has a completely different technique, but when Elsa does it, the ball goes so high and so loopy. Amazed it goes in.
I guess like compared to like basketball, where you're normally like much further away from the hoop, like you have to get more height in netball as like a shooter.
Absolutely, and in basketball you have the backboard as well, so you can kind of aim with that, but in netball you've just got to go straight in, don't really have a choice.
So we can see that in the defensive circle, what they're doing a lot is switching their players that they're marking. So the goal defence should be marking the goal attack, and the goalkeeper should be marking the goal shoot. But what they're doing a lot is the goalkeeper is ending up marking the goal attack, just because of the way they're playing it into the D. So that's really good, because it means that obviously Flo and Zainab, who are our defenders, are kind of switching and are communicating really well together. There's only a minute left of the first half now, so we'll really be looking to get this final goal in, because it's not going to be long to do it.
I don't think Kirsty will come off in centre. She's having a really good match. I think Gemma Spencer will come on in wing attack potentially.
I would agree with that. I think Gemma, who is our sub, who's a first year, will probably come on as wing attack. I don't know with shooting, and I don't think defending will change either.
I think between two, Frankie McLeod might come on as she's warming up now. Just take Jordan off for a quarter because obviously she might be getting tired as well. Like it is a really tough game. Like whatever position you're playing, it's high intensity. So just to give Jordan a rest, Frankie might be coming on.
I think as well it's very unfortunate. It doesn't look like Izzy will be coming back on at any point. Her ankle is currently up on the chair, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty end of game for her. And that's all we need now. So we've got a 3-goal lead going into the second half.
So it's 18-15 at the end of the half.
It's on for an hour.
It just goes on and on and on. I was watching
Okay, so we've now got one of the most competitive events of all of Derby Day. We're going to hear from Thumb Wars.
Okay, so you've challenged me to a thumb war.
I have.
And who's going to win this thumb war?
Probably me.
Okay.
Do you want to introduce it?
Okay, you go.
1, 2, 3, 4, I declare thumb war.
I think that's an illegal move.
I'm not sure, but I want to win. 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare one more. I declare thumb war? I win one more?
You
I'm just going to win. I'm going to
So,
count that as a win. Small
That is
victory.
the new sport for Derby Day. And are we going to be petitioning that to go into the next Olympics?
I'll give that a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Got a little bit of a break. So yeah, UEA 18-15 to them. How have you guys thought it's been going? How's the team been performing?
I think our performance is really good. We've had the majority of the possession, which is really, really good. It means we've had the ball for most of the game. We are struggling a little bit to convert it. Actually, I don't think we're struggling to convert it. I think Essex are just really, really good at converting it into that goal. So we've currently got one of our shooters who is warming up now, literally just stood getting the shots in for the 5 minutes. But yeah, I think it's been a good game so far.
Yeah, I do think the girls have been playing really strongly. I think it is just unfortunate about the goals. Like, I feel like UEA might be playing a little bit better actually than Essex. Essex are making more mistakes than UEA. So I just think I think in the second half we're going to come back stronger than Essex. And hopefully the goal difference will be a lot more. I just don't think we're safe at the moment. Like 3 goals just is nothing. If they only need 2 turnovers to overtake us. So yeah, it's all to play for.
Well, yeah, as you said, with shooting across the board for both teams has been lower than you expect. On the offense, quite a low scoring game. Do you think nerves for the big Derby Day match would affect the shooters more than they might affect other aspects of the game? Do you think that might be part of why it's happening?
I definitely think it is, because I think the possession, as I was talking about before, has kind of been equal, but the score doesn't necessarily reflect that. So I think it definitely comes down to the pressure of shooting and just struggling to get it into that D to then be able to take the shot. People are going to be a lot more hesitant to, because you don't want to be remembered for missing 10 shots and only getting in 3, as opposed to only taking 3 shots but getting all those 3 shots in.
I do think it's a closer match as well, which is probably the thing. It's going back and forward because sometimes the score is higher because one team is dominating more. So maybe it's because they're both quite evenly matched, which is why the score is a bit lower.
But yeah. So if you were in UEA's position right now, how would you try and get around this from a strategic point of view? What would you be saying at half time? Would you make any substitutions? What would be the game plan from here on out?
I think I would keep the defence as it is. I would change the shooting circle, because if you're going to change the shooting circle, you kind of need to do it now. It's too much of a risk really to change your shooters when it's in the final quarter, just because you don't know what their shooting actually is going to be like on the day. So yeah, I'd potentially sub in some shooters just to offer fresh legs onto the court to boost it through on that end. But other than that, I think we just need to continue as we are, because we kind of settled into it more now and it's less frantic.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely the attackers is what you're going to need to change.
The captain being injured and being out, do you think her not being on the court will have a big effect on UEA, or do you think they've got enough leaders in the team, they've got enough experience to be able to pull through without her?
I think it's maybe slightly demoralising when you're actually playing because you have lost your captain, but you still do have your vice captain who's Meg Davies on the court, and she's a really, really good player and a very experienced player. But actually it might be a little bit better because the captain can remove herself from the game and actually watch from the sidelines, see what we're doing well, see what we're not doing well, and then feed that back to the team or feed it back to Meg when she's playing. So on court it may be a little bit demoralising, but it might actually be better in the end for our gameplay.
Yeah, I think it is a real shame that she's not playing, and her encouragement does probably help on the court a little bit, but she's definitely going to be great shouting on the sideline. It's also nice that the coach is here to watch today because she gives a lot of encouragement and has got a lot of good tips for the team. I do think it might hinder them slightly, but I don't think enough to affect their play too much. It is just a shame to watch her not be able to play as it's her last match as well, though. Yeah.
Are you only able to do a substitution at like quarter breaks and half breaks?
So you can call a substitution whenever you want, but it means you're not allowed back on the court for the rest of that quarter. So people don't really tend to sub themselves up. A lot of the rules have changed over substitutions literally within the last year with regard to England netball and international netball. So if you call time, you have to go off. You can't just switch other people in the team. So it's kind of a position that not many people do choose to do. But other than that, you can only make them at good times or when there's injuries.
Yeah, unless there's an injury, it's probably not a good idea to make a substitution during the match. It does happen quite a lot that people fake injuries, which obviously isn't sportsmanlike, but it's a very common thing to do, to fake an injury to make a substitution during a quarter. It's not recommended to do that.
Yeah. So is like the coach's job more like they mainly come into it thinking like at the end of quarters when they can like communicate with their team? Is that like their role?
Yeah, so the coach is trying to feed to the captain and the captain then feeds it back to the team. So that's kind of what that main role is. We've just started again now, and you can see that we've changed the centre to Gemma, who's a fresher, and we've also changed the shooting. So goal shooter Frankie, she is a second year, and it's just got that shot in. So we're going up to 4 up, which is good.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see Gemma come on to replace Kirsty. However, playing centre is probably the most intense position, so I think it's probably more because Kirsty will need a rest, because playing centre, obviously that's the only position you can go over the whole court, so it's probably because Kirsty is extremely tired. And Gemma is also a great player, so she might actually bring some more energy to the team. She's a very energetic player, so it might be good for the team.
Everyone likes to argue that all their positions are like as important and as tiring as the other, but centre is notoriously tiring. You're basically allowed, and your job is to run up and down the court the entire time. So bringing fresh legs on in centre is a good idea, because she's in the middle of the court, she'll kind of revitalise both ends, or has the opportunity to. So hopefully that will take place.
Frankie, the goal shooter, I think she's been working on getting those rebounds, because as you can see, the goalkeeper is much taller than her, and she managed to jump way higher than that goalkeeper. So that's good from her, because it's expected always of defenders to get rebounds, but goal shooters, you forget, that's something they have to work on as well, because if they miss, they've got to get it back. So yeah, Frankie did that really well there.
So Jane up there, the goalkeeper's just done a really, really good interception, and it's really, really slowing down the play for Essex to get into that D and then get the shot. And when the attackers start to tire a little bit more, this will become a lot more effective, although it is still effective now, because we're forcing them to make extra moves, and kind of the more moves you make, probably the more errors you're likely to make. Which we can see, because now it's our back line, and hopefully we're going to get it up through the defenders to the midcourt and then convert it into a goal.
And does the clock stop at all when there is like a stoppage of play when the ball goes out, or like after a goal has been scored?
Not when there's a stoppage of play like that. If there's an injury, then it will get called. Or if the ball is, like, say it went down the middle gap between the two seats, then it would be called. But other than that, it's not called.
Yeah, sometimes when they give a caution, if it's like a long talking to, then they'll call time as well. Sometimes it takes like a long chat, and it's quite intense. But yeah, they call time for that as well.
And so that means that like UBA slowing down Essex means even more since we're in the lead. Like that means like there's less possessions, less chance for them to score.
Exactly. There's been a lot of changes within netball, like nationwide and internationally, trying to stop the game from kind of stopping as much as it has. So it's kind of something that umpires won't really like to call up for.
You mentioned that Essex's goalkeeper has like a bit of a height advantage. Is like height a big thing across the board in netball, and like does it factor in position wise? Like, is there any like traits you look for specifically?
So for kind of the defenders and the attackers that are in the circles, so your goalkeepers and your goal shooters, you do want that height. And then kind of stereotypically, your wings and your centres tend to be shorter players, just because the height isn't as important there, and you kind of need the agility more. But height doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to netball. You can have someone who's really, really tall, but actually awful at netball, and vice versa. Although internationally and nationally, all of the netball players are very tall. There's someone that plays for one of the Super League teams that's like 6'7" or something ridiculous. Like they are giant.
I think if you are shorter, you have to be significantly better to be able to stand out, because it's so much. Like if you walked into a trial and you're taller, people are going to look at you straight away and be like, they're tall, they're probably going to be good.
You have just got that automatic advantage with kind of reaching to get high balls, satching balls in, with your lean, because you have to mark from 3 feet away. If you're taller, you're going to have longer arms. If you've got longer arms, you're more likely to get the ball when you're leaning. So, like, it does kind of come down to height a little bit.
So is it at like your feet have to be three feet away? Is that how that rule works?
That's how it's marked. So it's marked from your landing foot. So if I'd landed my feet and they weren't separately and they're taking a step forward, the defender has to mark from the back foot.
Some umpires are a bit. I don't know what their judgment is on 3 feet.
Questionable.
It's questionable, yeah. Yeah, sometimes you might be. You definitely. Sometimes I think I've been 2 meters away and they've called me up. I think it just depends on the umpire, like what sort of mood they're in, how strict they're being. They're usually either consistently good or consistently bad, though, the umpires. So
I think as well, sometimes people look at your lean and they think your arms can't really be that far forward, and then kind of look down at your feet and realise actually you are that far away.
yeah, it's never good when you're a defender. So if you've got a tall defender against a very short attacker, it's actually almost more difficult for the taller defender, because you're trying not to contact them, not to obstruct them, because they're smaller. Like it looks like you're being more aggressive maybe, and sometimes it's not the case. But yeah, height definitely is a significant thing when you're playing. Also, like the sort of person you're marking, if you're like a similar height to them, like it's kind of a good thing, because yeah, it's just easier to mark someone that's a similar height to you, but someone that's a lot taller, like it's really hard to get balls around them. Someone that's shorter, you just try not to contact them all the time. So I think our girls and the Essex girls are pretty similarly matched in height, though, by the looks of things today.
Interestingly, Essex are now making substitutions, and they're bringing off their centre, who I think is potentially their captain. Then she called time there, so that's a choice that she's made. So it's quite a bold move, because she can't basically come on after the rest of the quarter. And it'll be interesting to see how this new centre shapes up against Gemma. So they've potentially seen that we've put a new centre on, we've got fresh legs, she's got lots of energy, and the existing centre couldn't really keep up with that, so that might be the reason for that change. Really forcing Essex to make errors there. As you see, they have to pass it back 50% forwards, and now it's turned over to our ball, which again our defence are playing really, really well, and by forcing errors that's really good. Again, the pressure there has caused her to do that, so we're going to get that ball even closer to kind of the middle third.
That was replay ball there. I don't think we've seen that yet. We might have seen it once, so that's just if you bounce the ball. It's replay. Sometimes the umpires are also picky about that. Like sometimes you can bounce it once because if it's not in your control, then it's sometimes not replayable. But it's sort of the umpire's judgment as well. If you had control of that ball once it's bounced, if you bounce it more than once, though, that's it. It's replayable, and that's a free pass, not a penalty as well.
Well, that was out of hand there. There was no denying. Centre's lost her bibs. We're going to have to wait for her to put the bib back. That was unlucky for our defenders there. We should have really got that rebound, because it's going to bring Essex up to within 2 of winning, which isn't really what you want. The third quarter, which we're currently in, is notoriously known for kind of being quite a dead quarter. Everyone is tired. Everyone's heads kind of go down a little bit. There's a real kind of drop off, which you can see by how many goals have been scored so far. It hasn't really been that many at all. And then you'll come back into the final quarter and everyone will be really, really fighting and really, really pushing for it again. So we've kind of just got to get through this quarter still in the lead. And then as long as we manage to do that and the fight from Essex isn't too bad, then we should win.
I'm actually unsure of what happened there. I think because I thought it was going to be contact on the post, but that was Essex made contact on the post. I'm actually unsure of why that was against us.
So I'm not sure either, because again it was contact on the post. You're not allowed to hit the post ever, especially when someone's shooting, and you get a point for that contact on the post. As far as I was aware, that was Essex to hit the post, so it shouldn't have been.
Or it wasn't a throw, was it? Did she go out of court?
I don't know.
I'm not too sure.
Again, it's the umpire's decision, and Netball is very much a sport where you can't argue with the umpire in any way at all. As soon as you do it, because we watched hockey earlier, and they can kind of give a little bit of stick, but you can't do that at all. So Essex defence are finding it a little bit easier, potentially, I think, to mark Frankie in the way that she plays. That goalkeeper has managed to get the ball a few times out, but Frankie is converting the goals with chance opportunities. So as long as we keep doing that, we'll be okay. That was lucky from us, but as you can see, Zainab was ready for that rebound, so that was good that she was prepared for that. I think something that the players really love about Derby Day is, they probably love and hate it, is all the people that watch. So obviously it's really, really encouraging when people are cheering you on, but also I think it's a lot of pressure. So we can kind of, I don't know if you can hear or not, but the Essex people are shouting and then now UA people are shouting. Which I think does make it a little bit more frantic on court. People realise they care about it more and the pressure increases. So errors are made, like the ones which are currently happening. That's kind of what I was talking about. That shouldn't have really happened. That was very, very sloppy. So there's just been a warning there, I think, to the... Who was that warning for? The goal defence?
Yeah, I just think that was one of those times where the umpire's probably unsure himself of what to whistle, so they just sort of waited for something like actually obvious to happen for her to make a decision. Because I think they tried to avoid doing toss-ups.
Toss-ups are... Yeah, people don't really like toss-ups and they're a bit... They can cause a lot of kind of unnecessary aggression. Essex shooting has started to dip a little bit. As we were saying before, they were consistently getting it in every single shot they made, but they are struggling to do that a little bit now, I think, as they tire. However, that hasn't stopped them from getting within one of our current lead.
I think maybe in the final quarter they might bring back on Jordan or potentially bring on Millie Pryor in replace of Frankie, just because Frankie's shooting's not really been on target, and she is the sort of player that can get in her own head. She is fantastic, and once she gets going she'll be fine, but I think just to secure a win with a bigger goal difference, potentially bring on a new shooter in the final quarter.
I would actually argue that Frankie's shooting is on target. She's just really struggling to get the ball. The goalkeeper is all over her. And the way that Frankie plays, when she gets the ball, she gets it in.
I think it's that goalkeeper is a bit taller than her, which is why she might potentially be struggling a little bit.
She's read Frankie's play really, really well, which is a really good trait of her, of the defender. But obviously very unfortunate for us. So it'll be interesting to see the changes that are made. And also if the goalkeeper changes, then it's a completely different thing for us.
So if you're in the lead, would you like prioritise someone who's good at getting and maintaining the ball over someone who might be a slightly better shooter? Because surely that means you have more time being like killed where you have the ball and they can't be scoring.
I think it just depends on how much your lead is and how confident you are that you're making the right decision. People play netball in different ways, but if you read and work out how to play them, then you can kind of work out whether changing your shooter is going to be good or not. Particularly in the last quarter, what we might see is if one of the teams is winning, it's just trying to keep possession. So if we're winning by 2 or 3 goals, tactically what you might just try and do is literally just pass it around your team, irrelevant of you actually trying to get more goals, if that's kind of what it comes down to in the last 1 or 2 minutes.
So is there any like time limit on possession, or can you just be like passing it around the entire time?
You can pass around for as long as you want. Obviously, it really aggravates the other team because they want to get that ball. But if in the last 2 minutes, we're 2 goals up and we don't want to risk kind of getting it back up the court or doing other things with it, because if they turn it over, particularly like with 1 goal leads, and that's something that will happen. And that's kind of tactics that are played throughout the whole level of sport. So the Commonwealth Games last year, we won by 1 goal that was taken in penalty time, so the time had been called. And the team that we were against, Australia, were playing for possession, so they just kept tried to keep hold of the ball as opposed to actually converting it into more goals.
Really, you can see that was major contact in the post then, but it didn't actually affect the play, it didn't actually affect the shot, so it's fine.
So there's 30 seconds left now. We can see that coach has stood up, kind of shouting. We just really need Essex not to get a goal from this, because if they do, there's only 1 minute, and that's kind of ridiculously close, particularly if they have that first centre now. It's literally going to be to the right for this. Time has been pulled, but
Okay, so
that was literally what just happened with the
so that's time on the 3rd quarter. 1 more left. UAE is still leading, but it's only 25-24. Do you guys confident they can hold off?
I mean, we're going to win, but it really depends on who's the next centre is. If it's an Essex centre and they convert it to goal as they should, then it's going to be goal for goal the whole way, which is fine as long as we maintain that lead. I think it would be really, really unfortunate if it was a draw. I think that should not be good at all if it's a draw. But if we're starting with that centre ball and we make the conversion, then we'll be 2 up again, and hopefully then be able to use that. Because it's the last quarter, people will be pushing a lot harder than they did in that 3rd quarter. Because as we can see, the goal actually hasn't really changed that much. You'd kind of expect around 40 goals, I'd say at least, within the end of a game, and we're only really reaching half of that.
Yeah, I'm feeling really confident going into this quarter, just because of how the girls have played all season. They've tended to actually play better in the second quarter than the second half in the first half. Because it has unfortunately been that they've been actually down after the first half, so they've learned to bring it back. So I think they're going to sort of play with the mentality they might be losing, and I'm really confident they can bring it back more in this final quarter.
Hopefully Essex don't play like that. That's our only issue. But they're starting to look like they're tired. They're making more errors. They're forcing more mistakes. So if they kind of continue downwards and we continue upwards, then we'll be fine.
And as you said, like UEA is in a higher Bucks league than Essex.
Yeah.
So like, do you think that would impact like having to play at a higher intensity all season long? When you get to the 4th quarter, like that level difference is where it might like really start to shine through.
I think it does. I think you can also really just tell in the style of plays and watching people play. So as a team, we've got significantly fewer cautions, significantly fewer contacts. Our game is a lot more tactical and it's a lot more skilled. For Essex, you can kind of tell that they might be in a lower Bucks division because their game is a lot more physical, it's a lot more contact, and that's how they prevent the ball, as opposed to actually using skill to prevent people from getting that ball. So I think that's kind of where it does show the most. But it will show in this final quarter because we've got a lot more grit than Essex have.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping that it'll be an advantage for them of playing a high level all year. Because what can tend to happen is if you're playing a team that's of lower standard, you can play down to their level.
Yeah.
Although we can clearly see that Essex are quite a good standard today, so I don't think they're necessarily doing that. But hopefully they just play their absolute best. Like it's going to be their last ever quarter. Like some girls, their last quarter playing for UEA, so hopefully they just give it their all. And you know, I think we are really going to win, but they've given it a really good fight.
Yeah, exactly. I would say both teams have played very well. But obviously we do really, really want this win. Whatever happens, it'll be very emotional. People will probably burst into tears at the end of this when the whistle is blown again. Woo!
Okay, so now the UEA is taken back to the pitch, so we're almost ready to head right back into the final quarter. 12 minutes left of this game. 15 minutes left of this game. So yeah, have there been any substitutions for UEA?
Yeah, so Jordan Rainbird has gone on into goal shooter, and they've taken Elsa MacArthur off from goal attack, and they put Frankie McLeod into goal attack. This is a move they don't normally do. Frankie doesn't normally get to play in goal attack because Elsa's such a strong goal attack, but I think it's because we need the score to go up, and Elsa isn't necessarily like her shooting. She's not the best shooter. She's more of, she just gets the ball there and then passes it to the other shooter. So I think in order to get our score up is why they've put Frankie, who is normally a goal shooter, into goal attack.
Equally, Elsa's played 3 quarters. She's going to be pretty knackered now, and we could do ultimately the fresh legs in that circle.
Yeah, it's a risk. And I think because the score's so close is why Millie Maguire hasn't gone on. It is a shame, but obviously she's a first year, so she's going to have 2 more years of... Actually, she's also a medical student, so she's going to have like 20 years. I don't know how long they do their degrees for.
So ridiculous amount of time like that.
So yeah, I don't think she'll be too gutted about that. It's just nice to be a part of it, and she's got to train with them. So
I think it's really intense now. You can hear how much more intense this quarter is than the one before. We're currently drawing, which is not a comfortable position for either team. Like you never really want to be drawing because every single move counts more than ever. We have currently got possession, but it's in our defending end. So we just really need to convert this to get that one win. But again, you can see that we're making silly errors like that. It's just unfortunate, but it's just inaccuracy of the ball being passed. That has kind of stops us from getting that to goal. So we can see here, they're probably going to, so the goalkeeper is currently marking the goal sheet. So they're kind of continuously working to switch their players just because of who is closest to the player and who can mark them better. So Zainab's kind of read the situation of the goalkeeper and is actually well equipped at marking the goal attack. So they've chosen to do that switch. Except for I think Essex are currently winning. So this was exactly what happened last year. So we were winning until the... Yeah, we cannot have a repeat.
It's okay though. Obviously we're still at the start of the last quarter. They've got time. They just need to have another turnover really, and not lose their heads. Because this is the issue. They might be so into it. They want to win so badly that they might make mistakes. So they've just got to remain calm. We don't want to see mistakes like that.
I think as well that everyone's kind of gone in hard to fight for this, but there is still 12 minutes left, and although it doesn't seem like that much, it's a massive amount of time. So much can change in 12 minutes. So they kind of need to rein it in a little bit, rein in the control a little bit, and kind of the fight they have right now, because they've still got enough in the
Jordan's definitely having a really great day of scoring today. Her scoring's been very on target, very reliable. Just hopefully we can get a turnover now and take the lead again.
Both the players out. So both the defenders there from Essex were contacting, so they had to both stand up.
obviously just then, that was a really easy interception from both of them. They're both going for it. They just need to communicate a bit more, I think, among the defence. But obviously you're all going to want to go for those balls, but if you don't have communication, you'll make mistakes. Yeah, I just had another held ball there. I think Essex defence is getting a lot better, stronger. And yeah, I think Argyle's, that might have just shown they're getting a bit more tired. They're struggling to get into spaces, which is why it was a held ball.
I think you can tell, particularly the defensive players, they've read our attackers. They now know how we play, which is really showing because it means they've been able to put into place skills that they know that will stop us from getting that ball. If Essex get this, it could be a bit of a lovely ball from them.
That's the sort of mistakes that we probably want to see Essex making now. Just doing footwork, then that was a really silly mistake. But that's the sort of things you start to see in the final quarter when it gets more intense.
I think some of these players have been on court now for almost an hour, constantly moving, constantly running, constantly focusing, stop starting. So it is a really, really tiring game, and I think people don't always necessarily appreciate that, but it can be really, really draining. Hopefully now with that one-up lead, that will kind of be all that we need to sail us into. Just keeping our heads up and fighting for that. We could end up with a 2-goal lead. We should do because we've actually automatically got that ball.
It's looking quite nice because we did just have a turnover there. So if we'll be 2 up if we get the next one in. If we just remain 2 up for the whole quarter, it'll be less stressful.
That's all you need. You just need more than that kind of one gap goal. It's just too close.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it down to the last minute and getting that final goal in. It is the pressure on the shooter to do that in that to get the final goal must be awful. It might come down to that.
No, that was a contact on the post, which she's just got in a bit of trouble for it. So Jordan was about to take the shot and the defender chose to hit the post, so she basically but it's fine because we've kept our head. And we're now got that 2-goal lead that we so desperately wanted. If we manage to turn this over, I think, I don't want to say we'll be set because it's kind of tempting fate.
No, they don't want to get too overconfident. I'm thinking what the girls are probably doing is not actually even looking at the score as they're playing, because you want to play as if you are losing, so you play your best.
So what the centre just did there was she had the ball, but unfortunately she dropped it and she then couldn't pick it back up. So she was kind of running around the ball waiting for another UVA player to be able to pick it up. But I would agree with what you're saying. I think when you're playing, you don't really know what the score is or focus on what it is. Particularly if it's a close game, you just know it's close. So you're fighting and you're fighting and you're fighting.
So 2 of our players there have just run into each other. They're just getting tired. They're not communicating. They truly need to pick up on their communication, I think. It's so key in netball. Like, you've just got to constantly be shouting where you're going because, as you can see, it's so fast paced. Everyone's running in similar spaces. You just got to keep your communication right up.
Also to see like passes that earlier in the game someone would have probably got to, but they haven't got the legs to reach now.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. People tire. So that goal didn't stand. So something happened there where one of the Essex players unfortunately contacted or did a foul. So although the goal went in, it hasn't stood, which again puts us in good stead. Jordan is clearly the most happy to get in these shots, and she's just managed to do it. It was against Frankie. Frankie, you should have taken that shot, but she chose to pass it over to Jordan just because Jordan is probably more likely to maybe get
That's
the
the
shots
sort of
in.
lead we needed.
Yeah.
We just had to turn over, so it's now, it's likely that we can win it from here. Don't want to speak too soon though. From Gemma, very impressed with that.
It's actually young player Gemma's managed to kind of keep her head throughout all of this. Considering she's just a fresher, it's probably the first time that she's played a match against a number of spectators like this. There's a lovely interception from Zainab there. And I think you can see that Essex heads have gone down. Essex heads have gone down. They're still fighting, but the kind of cheer behind Julia is just so much greater.
Zainab, the goalkeeper, just had a massive spurt of energy, and she's just getting every interception going now. She wants to win at all costs. I think she's the most committed to UEA.
I mean, it's her 4th year here. This will be her last time for Derby Day, so it's a massive game. And she has. There's 5 minutes left. It's kind of your last push now, as you can see. That was a little bit.
And every player is like willing to sacrifice their body on the court, but she's also willing to sacrifice her hair. So you can tell she's more committed than anyone else.
So much more committed than everybody. She's like, I'm going to be there regardless. So Essex did work hard to get that goal, but if you compare that goal to some of the early quarters and how long it took them to actually get that goal, you can see how the level of kind of play has changed throughout and how people are more tired. There are only currently 2 goals in it, and it is kind of near the Essex end. So I'd feel a lot more comfortable, I think, if we had another goal.
Yeah, I think we would definitely want another turnover. Well, yeah, I thought Essex were going to get it then. Yeah. We just think that was quite a sloppy pass. Long passes in a game of this standard are always quite risky because if the other team's good enough, they'll get interceptions. So long passes are always very risky. That's the sort of thing you do when you are getting tired, though, and a bit sloppy.
So yeah, that's not when you've got a lead up in the last few minutes. You don't want to be making those kind of mistakes.
Yeah. You also just kind of panic, like you want to get rid of that ball.
We really could have done with that goal now.
Yeah. Still at our end, so hopefully we're going to be able to convert this, but it's going to be a bit more. Kind of the goal we needed. There's still a chance for Essex to bring it back, but you can see, so Flo, the on offence, who's president, is just shouting keep it tight. So she kind of, that's her way of saying let's kind of getting closer and make more smaller passes to keep the possession, as opposed to trying to cover lots of ground and get that goal in, but also risk losing the ball.
Happening now. I think they're just trying to, they are playing at all costs, like really trying to delay the play. So Phoebe Coward's just got a caution, which isn't actually surprising. She gets quite a lot of cautions. She's just, it's not on purpose, it's just the sort of player she is. She likes to get flying interceptions, which just end up being in contact quite often. She actually doesn't normally get a full match, but obviously because Izzy Temple's been injured, Florence Pond's had to play in goal defence, so Phoebe's been lucky enough to get a whole match, and she's actually had a really great match. But yeah, I'm not really surprised she got a caution there, to be honest.
I think as well, as bad as it sounds at this point in the game, a caution isn't really that big of a deal. You've got 2 minutes left, you're very unlikely to get another one. I'll be sent off for it at this point. Unless you did something awful.
It's worth taking the risks at this point. Yeah, Zainab's definitely really upped her game in this final quarter, definitely.
Yeah, she really has. I think she's kind of been saving it, which might not be as good for the other quarters, but it's kind of pushing the whole team on. So we're into the final minute now, and I would be completely shocked if we didn't win it. Something would have to go very catastrophic.
Yeah, going into the final minute, we're 2 points up.
But it is Essex
centre
possession.
pass.
But this is where mistakes like that really, really count, because that's just
Anything
wasted
can happen.
about 10 seconds. If she isn't that much. It's going to be really close. If Essex get this goal, then we're only going to have won by 1, basically. But we can see there that the shooter was hesitant to shoot, so hopefully it continues like that.
Girls really need to keep it away from it. There's 20 seconds to go. It's our centre pass.
It's our centre, so
should
all
be
we want to
okay,
do
but
here
you
now
never
is just
know.
keep that possession.
No mistakes here on this centre pass.
All we want now is just to keep that
We just need
possession
to
as
keep
we
the ball at
said.
our end. The ball has to stay down our end.
We've won it, we've won it.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, they wanted to go celebrate. I was like, yeah, go, fine, yeah.
Just maybe be like, and there they are, like.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been abandoned by my co-commentators who've gone to celebrate with their team, and I can't blame them. It's such a big moment for all of this team. They've spent all year desperately wanting to win this game, and it means so much to every single one of them. For some it's their first derby day, for some it's their last, and regardless, they are so glad to have won it. Yeah. So yeah, they ended up final score. Yeah. So firstly, congratulations to you all. Yeah. So you'd like to introduce yourself quickly.
I'm Frankie. I'm Jordan. I'm Phoebe.
So you had the lead going into that final quarter. What was going through your mind when you had to step on the court then?
A lot of nerves, a lot of pressure.
Don't lose.
No. Oh well, I haven't played goal attack much all season. And that's where I came on, and I was like, oh my god, okay, here we go.
We hadn't played the game that we would have wanted the whole way through,
Yeah.
so it was like step it up in this last quarter and bloody bring it home.
So hard, you just can't hear anything.
yeah, it was amazing.
So
though.
loud.
I was trying to shout at the top of my lungs, but all you could hear.
each other.
Yeah.
And we
So
lost our
hard.
captain in the first quarter.
Yeah. That shook us up a little bit, to say the least.
Is this your first? Is this your last derby day? Like what's happening with that?
Have tears been shed yet?
Oh, I cried as soon as it was so embarrassing.
Yeah. Do you feel? Are you happy with this being your last one? Do you think you've done it justice?
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
to finish on a win.
Yeah. All we wanted was the win, and to win by just one makes it so much better.
Yeah, it's kind of at the end of the day, the score doesn't count, and to bring it home by 1 when it's because they're such a good team. So to bring it home, it's awesome.
Well, I presume you're all going to celebrate tonight.
Yes, of course.
Sober club, sober team.
That's what we like here at UEA on derby day. It's full sobriety from every sports team.
I know that was just sweating.
We're going to go celebrate. Thank you so much for having us.
Enjoy.
Oh, it's been great.
Thank you guys.